Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you
Good.
so much for coming out. I really enjoyed your I guess seminar kind of thing
Thank you.
on being an entrepreneur and what the experience was for you. So, one question I have for you is how did you balance the transition between employee to entrepreneur, employee and entrepreneur?
Well, technically, I'm still balancing that because it's still a recent thing, and it wasn't a fully intentional transition just yet. So what happened was that I got to a point where the business was growing, and I had to grow with it, but I could not because I was confined by working for somebody else, being in an office 9 to 5. I was full time employed. I would have to come home, make products after work, make products on the weekends, vend on the weekends. So it just got to a point of burnout where I really had to decide, is this the right time? Do I feel comfortable with my level of sales and my following and all of that? Can I make a change in my lifestyle to accommodate being able to manage my business full time, which really resulted in an interstate move. So I had to move from New York to Pennsylvania to be able to cut down on my living expenses because you have to go bare bones when it comes to the list. Like, what is the sequence of absolute things that need to happen? What I need to do is cut my expenses because then I don't have to worry about having needing a huge salary and the package of benefits that comes with it. I would be able to manage things a little bit better on my own, even if I just had a part-time job and work my business full-time while I still manage the transition. So cutting my expenses, moving to Pennsylvania. I live there now. I started working part-time when I moved there just so I could still have some additional income coming in. And then after it was essentially is the short answer, because I won a contest in September, a business plan contest. The money from that was able to hold me over for a few months while I really stepped up my game on the business and working on it every day, 12 hours a day, making products, being on the internet, networking, going to events, and doing all of the different components that it takes to grow a business. So once you have the financial cushion and space to make that leap after establishing a following, some sales, and when you feel like things are starting to move, your website is getting sales regularly without you having to do too much. That's how you have to use those indicators, your context clues from your business, but then you also have to assess your life and how much space and time you are allotting for that business to grow, because a lot of people aren't realistically approaching that and aren't realistically making room for their business and still treating it as a hobby. And it's going to stay a hobby until you make the effort to be like, okay, the 9 to 5 is secondary. I have to put more energy into my business.
So, you said you felt confident enough to transition from 9 to 5 to full time in September.
Actually, that happened more in November, because I was still working part-time. So I work in real estate, which is pretty flexible. So if you have another stream of income that's very flexible, that's great. Working as a real estate agent allows flexibility. And I was working part-time as an assistant manager for a broker's team. So I was working half the hours that I was working in New York, so 20 hours a week, still making the basics that I needed to cover my rent, my phone bill, and all that stuff, and then having the time that I need to build the business. Did I answer the question completely? I just like to make sure.
So, how did you find that financial stability to really, besides the contest that you won, to really game up and decide, I don't want this to be a hobby anymore. I want this to be full time. What resources do you suggest to other people who are also aspiring entrepreneurs who are considering to open up their own businesses to look for, whether it be family, contests, grants, and such, if you have any specific tips on that?
Yeah, well, the whole workshop is about from employee to entrepreneur, because I had to self-fund everything that I've done. So making sure that you're very conscious about if you're working a job that you're not necessarily planning on making into a career, to make sure that you're setting aside a steady amount from each paycheck every 2 weeks, every week, whatever it is. I definitely am taking this portion of my income and putting it towards buying materials or supplies, or this week I need to order jars and butters. Next week I need to order flyers. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not going to have the budget to cover all of the expenses that you have immediately, so you are going to have to break them down into parts. So it's like, okay, well, after I get paid, then I can set aside this $200 to pay for the vending fee for the next event that I'm going to go sell my products at. So it's really about knowing what you have. It's always great when you have other people involved. It's really, really, really hard to start a business completely by yourself, and it's not ideal, but having a partner, several partners, an investor, if your family's behind you, if your parents are behind you, you really have to start with your own savings. And then in terms of finding external sources, once you have a viable product and service and brand and name and presence, then you are appealing and attractive to investors, venture funds, venture capitalists. You can do really getting your business plan together is a huge component, because like I said, the business plan contest I didn't think was going to have that big of an effect on my life or my business. And it really, not just the money, but I met a lot of people, after winning, and people who are involved in the contest. So I got like legal consultations for free as part of the package. So different consultants reached out to me in terms of wanting to work with my business. So that really is a degree of validation or a stamp that people see that you're going somewhere, or that they see value in what you're doing. And sometimes that's really all it takes to put you not on the map, but at least to get a buzz going about you and what you're doing, what your brand is. So there's a whole lot of those out there. Pitch contests are very simple. I won $1,000 in a minute and a half doing a pitch contest, just saying a 1-minute pitch and then a 30-second pitch.
Did you do any CrowdRise or crowdfunding types of things?
I haven't done any crowdfunding as of yet, because for me those are really tough to do unless you really have diehard followers and people behind you. And I have diehard customers and stuff, but I want to position myself to be at a different level. If I'm going to do crowdfunding, I don't even know that that's something that I want to do, because I feel like that works for different types of businesses better than others. People like to fund arts projects and entertainment projects and stuff like that. But that's probably something I'll look at down the line. I haven't done it yet.
Okay. So what support did you receive, other than financial, from, friends, family, people who are close to you, in terms of, maybe just telling you it's a good idea and that they're into it and such? And how important do you think having that outer support system is in terms of yourself? I know it happens with you, but how do you think that reassurance really plays a role in, helping start your business and really, have it grow from the ground up?
Sure. Well, friends were the ones who really started the business. Like I said, it wasn't something I started intentionally. So people calling me and saying, I need hair crack, or friends seeing me like, what are you doing with your hair? What's happening? I know you're going natural now. What are you using? What's going on? Can I have some? So friends were the ones who really started the business, and they really supported. At that point, I was selling $5 hair crack jars, so it wasn't too expensive for them to support. But that was the main push in how the business got started. They started asking me for it. That's where the demand grew. So if the people around you don't necessarily see the value in the product, that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean that it's a good thing either. You know what I mean? Like, you want to make sure that you are appealing to the people you want to be your target audience. And all of my friends were other Black women, most of us transitioning to natural hair, all of us kind of in the same boat, trying to figure out what products work, what products don't work. So, the fact that they saw the same thing, quality in my product that I saw, was, an indicator that I know I think my product is different from what's out there, but they're telling me the same thing. So it's not just me being like, an egomaniac and thinking I just made the most amazing thing in the world and only I think it's amazing and everybody's like, yeah, it's all right. You know what I mean? In terms of family, they strict Haitian family in terms of, they want doctors, lawyers, and engineers. But people usually want you to go the safe route because they're worried about you. So that's usually the root of that. And so I try not to internalize that as like doubt about me. It is just I don't want you to take the road less traveled. Try something that is more definite and secure. But I'm kind of a rebel. So I didn't really care if something's hard or difficult or never been done before. If it's going to be a process, I'm going to do it. Especially because it chose me.
It's your life.
Yeah. It's your life and it's your decision, but also like I did not start this business on purpose. It chose me, and I had to acknowledge that I have something here and I need to make something of it. Otherwise, I'll just be making products for myself and that's it, which is fine. And I could have been continuing to do that, but I had to recognize the opportunity in what I was doing.
Absolutely. So what final advice do you have for entrepreneurs on like what steps and kind of like layout they can follow or should follow in terms of really setting their business in terms of, before they start selling and before they have everything else? What are the important steps you have to take to make the foundation for your business to be successful?
So I didn't do this myself, and it would have been more helpful had I done it. You need a business plan. I was reluctant to do it. Most people find it annoying and cumbersome, but it's really something that people exaggerate and make more difficult than it really is. Because I kid you not, once I did it, it was just like all this clarity, you know what I mean, started to happen in terms of where I've been, what I've done, and then what I want to do. It just became so much clearer after you're essentially talking through it as you're writing it out, right? And you're filling in these different components and you're doing the research and you're like, okay, well, this company, then you're able to be like, okay, you're doing your competitive analysis, you're searching other companies. This is where they fall short, or these are the things that they could do better. So I'm going to do better and put that, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to make that one of my strengths because I see where my competitor's weakness is. So there's a lot of different things that creating the components for the business plan will teach you, and that will force you to research, that will definitely frame your perspective and your knowledge for how you want to navigate through certain issues, because you're not going to handle everything the same way that another company is handling it. You know what I mean? You're different. You're in different circumstances. So start with the business plan, because like even now, can anybody function without a GPS? So if you ain't got no map, where you going? You got to create your map. You have to know where you're starting, you have to know your destinations, and you have to know the milestones that you plan to hit in between. So that's the most important thing I would say to do, is just at least so you know that you're on track, because then you have like something to go back to and check, like, okay, did I do step 1 and 2? Check. Okay, now step 3. You know what I mean? So you can measure and keep track of the things that you're getting done and the things that you still need to get done. Make sure that you have a team that's solid because like I said, I started, by myself. My team is just now starting to develop, and until then it's just everything on your shoulders. It's very stressful, and that's more so how people end up quitting, is because everything stays on your shoulders for too long, and then when something major falls through the cracks because you were paying attention to 8 other things, then you get super discouraged because it's just like, oh wow, I really dropped the ball there, and it just backfires on you. So even if it's one other person, it's a team. 2 people is a team. You can play doubles tennis. You know what I mean? So it's just about making sure that you have people lined up to help you when you get overwhelmed. You know where money is coming from in case sales aren't cutting it for the expenses that you need to make. Because even while I was, selling for the first year, yeah, I have a decent profit margin and I know that the business is making a profit, but I still have to recoup all of the money I've already put into this, you know? So you're not immediately profitable, even if your business is profitable. You know what I mean? So plan for it. The investment, the friends and family investing.
Advice or maybe the creative process.
Listen, must have a lawyer in your corner. I know it's expensive. There's so many different options. There's legal services and memberships that you can sign up for that are a low monthly fee. Like, there's no excuse. There's legal consultations at these small business development centers and SCORE centers and all of that, people that you can speak to for free. So don't just talk, because a lot of people talk themselves out of things because they think it's out of their reach. Like, oh, I can't afford it, or oh, I don't have access to that. You do. You just have to look around. You have to know what your circumstances are so that you can make it work. So there's plenty of places you can get basic legal questions answered about the legal structure that you should choose for your business, legal things to keep in mind, especially if you're making any kind of product that some people have to put on their body or in their body. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot of hoops and checks, regulations, all kind of stuff. Finance, you got to deal with the SEC, the IRS. Too much. Like, it's a lot. So just know who you're looking out for, who you have to pay, when you have to pay. Corporations, you got to file quarterly taxes. You know, you got to file sales taxes quarterly as well, or annually, depending on how you set it up. You have to pay sales tax in different states if you do business in different states, and every state has their own rate. It's crazy. Like, all of these things you have to know.
That's true. All right. Well, thank you so much. Those are all the questions that I had for you today. I'll definitely, make sure to send you the article. It's done. We're going to incorporate the video in it.
There's actually, on my website, if you go to melsbetterblends.com, there is a tab that says business resources that I created specifically for attendees of the workshop that you can go to reference some of the links, books, podcasts, and different resources that I mentioned in the workshop, online course websites that you can take free classes. So while you're in college and you don't have to pay rent, you know what I'm saying? Like, maximize your time. Use all the resources you have available.
Okay. Thank you so much.